The Reiger Park community in the city of Ekurhuleni, east of Johannesburg, is demanding justice for 6 people gunned down in a horrific attack that's left residents worried about their safety again. It's understood the occupants of 2 vehicles opened fire at random on Saturday night. 3 others were also left injured. For more on this, we're joined by Dr Bandile Masuku, the Gauteng legislature's chairperson for the Portfolio Committee on Community Safety. A very good evening to you, Dr. Masuku. Thanks very much for your time. I remember when I first saw the visuals on Saturday night, it looked very, very scary, and you wondered who on earth would do something like that?
Good evening, and thanks for having us on your show. Yes, there are worrying scenes that we are seeing, and it's very worrying that people, I think we are seeing them becoming a regular occurrence in Gauteng. You know, just a week ago, a month ago, we're dealing with the shooting that happened in Bronkhorstspruit in one of the taverns. And we're also, looking at and dealing with the issues in Westbury. So these are scenes that are quite worrying and disturbing. And there must be something that as a community and a society we do to make sure that we reduce some of these incidences.
And it's actually scary. I remember last week preparing for a show when I came across a report of the Institute for Security Studies. And one of the analysts was saying that the massacres we've seen recently are actually taking us back to, in numbers terms, to the early 90s. Now, you and I know what happened in the early 90s, especially in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. A lot of it, of course, was politically motivated, so to speak. But it's scary that we've gone there just by people getting into like shebeens or places where there are many people, as was the case, this past weekend, and they're shooting people at random.
It's very worrying, but as I've said, that there should be some work that we do in terms of some of the identified underlying factors which we can be able to control, especially as it relates. One of the key areas is that most of these shootings do happen at places of entertainments. The second part of the factors is that they do happen in areas which somehow have got incidences of gang violence or gang territory violence. And the third part, which is something that I think we should be doing more of it, is that these crimes happen through guns, so it means there's a problem on the availability of illegal firearms in the country. And then as a country, we need to do more work in making sure that we reduce the number of these guns in the hands of wrong people.
Something scary emerged at the Madlanga Commission last week, where the head of the forensic laboratory, the SAPS forensic laboratory in Pretoria, admitted to backlogs of more than 41,000. And if you think about it, you have scores, tens of thousands of families waiting for justice, You have people who are dead, you have people who are battling to survive from injuries committed through these guns, and yet we are unable to actually deal with the load that's going to make the connections between these people and the crimes that they have actually committed. I remember speaking to one analyst last week who was saying it's not only that even the work that is being done is in a sense flawed, because you're talking about people who are undertrained. You are talking about a technology that is not really, optimally functioning. So there's just so much to be done apart from the Premier of the province and the National Police Commissioner assuring people that these culprits will indeed be found and arrested. There's so much work that has to happen beyond the arrest, and that's really the point that one is making.
Yes, I think you are quite correct, because the system itself, the process flow is pretty much overwhelmed. And I think that evidence alone, which is something that we have known for some time now, that of the backlog. But I think the main focus that we need to do as society is just to speak about the areas relating to crimes committed through guns. And one of the things that we have now requested that going forward, in terms of crime statistics, we would want to receive them in Gauteng in particular, in a manner that reflects, the guns, so that we almost highlight the crisis that we are facing, because all these crimes are committed by illegal guns, and some of the guns, remember that an illegal gun was once a legal gun, So we need to move towards campaigning and lobbying quite drastically as the community. And I'm talking here the community itself, that we need to rally ourselves to make sure that we are able to report anyone who is seen with a gun, carrying the gun recklessly, like mainly violating the Firearm Act and so on. So we need to just campaign, as a country, and speak up around the issues of reducing the circulating guns in the country, so that we can be able to deal with these processes and the backlogs thereafter.
Obviously, as the chairperson of the portfolio of the committee, where as legislators you often call the police and other stakeholders to get a sense of the challenges that they face. When situations like these, like what happened in Reiger Park, what immediately comes to mind, given what you've heard police saying when they have come to you, what you heard other stakeholders say when they come to you?
Context, you would recall that the issue of human resource, the personnel that the police have, the numbers that they have, is also still pretty much very low in terms of per capita ratio, as calculated in terms of standards. So, we also know that police visibility, does somehow deter some of these incidences. And we would know that if we don't have enough boots on the ground, some of these incidences can happen. But one of the issues mainly is the shortage, and it is the shortfall in terms of actually personnel which is required to do the work. We know that there's an anti-gang unit that is functioning in Gauteng, which has been doing some work in Westbury, Reiger Park, and even El Dorado, and Rivali. And these are areas that normally do have these random types of shooting which are related to gangs. So if we can have more grounds on the boots in terms of visibility and the work that is done by this anti-gang unit, we can see some results on it. Deploying them now, it can it can quell the situation, but immediately when after 6 or so months, when the gang anti-gang unit moves out or reduces its operations, then this similar situation happens. We must say on this one, apparently this is not the first time around the same period of time that people have been gunned down in Reiger Park in this situation or in the similar circumstances.
But then, the reality is that the question of boots on the ground is not going to be addressed anytime soon. What are the other levers in your view that you perhaps haven't really used? Because we're told, for budgetary and other issues, there's no, you're not going to get more police being employed. or
Yeah,
much
I've
more?
been making that call. Yeah, I've been making the call, in many discussions that we've had that, beyond anything else, in terms of policing, we require the community to be involved, in one way or another. So the strengthening of community policing, it's one aspect that as a country, we need to, see how it has evolved over time, how it can be improved, and it can also help us in increasing the number of eyes that are on the situations or looking out in our streets. And I think the discussion around strengthening the community policing aspect of our policing will pretty much help, because maybe employing police on their own might be a big challenge, but at least we know that if we get the communities behind the safety of their streets and the safety of their neighborhoods, it can yield something. We know in areas where there's strong community policing, patrollers, neighborhood watches, we know that some of these incidences are quite low.
But they themselves have been complaining about lack of support. We're talking about community policing forums. They have been complaining about a lack of resources and lack of support.
It's one aspect, and the community safety department in Gauteng is faced with the task of resourcing some of the CPF. But we also need to clarify this point, that CPFs are a structure that helps to navigate the relationship between the police and the communities. But we still need a sector or a section or a group of people who are called patrollers, which are the ones that we require to properly formalize, properly conceptualize, because I think the concept of community safety of patrollers also emanate from what we know that works when the community gets involved. You know that it comes from our history of our struggle, where street committees were formed and so on and so on. So we need to now, in the new 21st century, how do we have a community policing forum that will be much more effective, much more resourced, so that whatever is there that comes from the department is utilized effectively and it does give some results.
Who do we question, or whose work do we really interrogate, given the fact that, this is the same, what you're seeing in places like El Dorado Park and Reiger Park, similar to what we're seeing in places like the Western Cape, which has been a gangland for as long as we can remember. Now, it then says, what are we not getting? What are we not doing? Have we been able to put a finger on why these phenomena continue and have been with us for the longest time?
The socio-economic aspect is one of the driving factors. The unemployment rate that we see in our country and in our province is a big issue, and it does drive some of these incidences that we see. But above all, like I've said to you, that it's important that we really mobilize the community to somehow also be responsible of their safety and report any wrongdoing as it happens. It shouldn't be normal when something happens next to you and it's wrong and you don't report it, And it also will make sure that the police somehow step up, in their response, because besides the issue of resource that you raised, it's also the cooperation that the patrollers normally don't get from the police, and they require to do something else actually differently. So we really require a very well coordinated, integrated strategy and personnel, because we also now have got a proliferation of private security companies in our townships and informal settlements, but they need proper coordination. Without that coordination, we won't be able to have a proper spread out of the resources that we have.
In fact, one community member was talking about the complicit, how families, parents are actually also complicit because they know that their brother or child is up to mischief, has an illegal gun or guns, and they run rampant. They are feared even in the home precisely because they have guns and they can easily, like, or shoot willy-nilly, and these people are not being reported or taken to their lives, and what they're doing wrong is not brought before the attention of law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, and that's my point. That's my point exactly. That we really, really need the community to also just not only expecting the police to do their work. Yes, we want them to do their work. We want them to be on the ground. We want them to coordinate all these efforts. But beyond that, communities need to play a role to make sure that their own homes and streets are actually safe. And the first step is just reporting what you heard, reporting what you have seen, which is illegal, and we know we need to. So I think overall, we really need a very strong integrated approach, and which is very much backed by community support and community involvement. Without that, these incidences will continue to happen because I'm certain that somebody heard something about the planning, somebody seen something before this happened, and if it was reported and the police responded on time, I'm certain that we could have avoided loss of life, which is quite regrettable.